الصالحين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلوات ربي وسلامه عليه. Continuing in these lessons, which are short lessons and classes explaining the book Sifatul Salat, or the abridged version of Sifatul Salat by the great scholar, the muhaddith of our time, Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani rahimahullah. So now we're taken today by the will of Allah, Istiqbal al-Qibla, facing the Qibla, which is the first of the conditions. We refer to as conditions due to the most of the scholars and the majority of them refer to it and use that term when explaining the word Istiqbal al-Qibla. Since it comes in a hadith when the Prophet ﷺ was addressing a man who prayed in a bad manner, Musi Salata, he said to him, إِذَا قُمْتَ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاسْتَقْبِلِ الْقِبْلَةِ. When you get up for the prayer, then face the Qibla. So the foremost thing the Prophet ﷺ commanded him with is to face the Qibla. For that reason, Muhammad Nasiruddin al-Albani rahimahullah began with this important aspect of the prayer. And this matter of Istiqbal al-Qibla, it's from the symbols of Islam, min sha'air al-Islam. That's why it comes in a hadith, Man salla salatana, wastaqbala qiblatana, wa akala dhabihatana, falahu dhimmatul muslimin. Whosoever prays our prayer and faces our Qibla and eats what we have slaughtered, then for him is what he possesses of the rights of the Muslims. This hadith has come on Anas ibn Malik, showing you that facing the Qibla is from the symbols of Islam, not only from the symbols of the prayer. So this is very important that we know this issue, Istiqbal al-Qibla. And when he says here, Istiqbal al-Kaaba, it actually means the place where the Kaaba is found in. So if a person is on top or underneath or underground, he's still referred to as facing the Kaaba, because he's facing that area where the Kaaba is found in. And the original story about this is that the Prophet ﷺ, at the beginning of his dispatchment, he used to pray at times facing the Kaaba. Then when the prayer was legislated after Isra wa Mi'raj, he was ordered to face Bayt al-Maqdis. He was ordered to face Bayt al-Maqdis. So the Prophet ﷺ would combine between facing the Kaaba and also facing Bayt al-Maqdis. How is that so? How can you face the Kaaba at the same time face Bayt al-Maqdis? And if you were to face the Rukn Yamani, the Yemeni corner of the Kaaba, you'll be actually facing Bayt al-Maqdis. So he would face the Kaaba while facing Bayt al-Maqdis, combining between the command of his Lord and what he loves, facing the Kaaba. So upon this, the Prophet ﷺ remained in Mecca up until he migrated. So once he migrated, he remained about 17 months, or some say 16 or to 18 months, remaining facing Bayt al-Maqdis. So when he arrived to Medina, he could no longer combine between facing the Kaaba and facing Bayt al-Maqdis, due to the distance now. So he would raise his head to the sky, hoping that Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala will answer his dua in changing the direction of the Qibla. So Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala answered for him, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the dua, and made them change the direction from Bayt al-Maqdis to the Kaaba. So we realize that the best of directions that a person can face, Ashraf jihad, the scholars say, is facing the Qibla. It's not only noble in the prayer to face the Qibla, but even in the halaqat, in the gatherings, even some encourage it to do it when slaughtering, making a sacrifice, that you face the Qibla. Tayyib, inshallah, we'll allow the brother to read, and then inshallah we'll try to bring some of the benefits what some of the Shaykh mentioned about it.
Bismillah, walhamdulillah, wassalatu wassalam ala rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, amma ba'd. Facing the Kaaba, istiqbal Kaaba. Number 1, if you stand a Muslim to pray, then face the direction of the Kaaba, wherever you are, in obligatory prayers and optional prayers. This is one of the pillars of the prayer, such that the prayer is not valid without it. Number 2, the obligation to face the direction of the Kaaba is removed from a warrior having to pray the fear prayer and during severe fighting. It is also
طيب Shaykh al-Albani rahimahullah, he began, as you mentioned, with facing the qiblah, and he didn't begin with the matter of purification, wudu, since it's from the conditions of the prayer. Person may ask, why is that the reason? Since the purification is outside the prayer and it requires its own explanation, something that lahu hukmun khas, they say, has a specific ruling. For that reason, he gave it its separate time by continuing with what's connected to the prayer. So istiqbal al-qibla, he refers it to here as the term rukn, a pillar. Shaykh al-Albani uses the term a pillar. Why does he use the term pillar and not shart? We took previously that the term condition is what the prayer depends on, but is outside the prayer. The prayer depends on, but it's outside the prayer. But a rukn, a pillar, it is what the prayer depends on, but within the prayer. So, from the angle that the last thing that you end with is facing the qibla in the prayer and throughout the prayer, it's referred to as a pillar. So if you look to the end of the prayer, it is a pillar, and if you look to the beginning of the prayer, it's referred to as a condition. So he says, إِذَا قُمْتَ أَيُّهَا الْمُسْلِمِ إِلَى الصَّلَاةِ فَاسْتَقْبِلِ الْكَعْبَةِ. So wherever you may be, you have to face the Kaaba. And there's rulings pertaining to that. If a person, he cannot see the Kaaba, there's something blocking, then he faces the direction. It's not necessary that he has to face the Kaaba as if he's seeing it, but he faces the direction. And it comes in a hadith, مَا بَيْنَ الْمَشْرِقِ وَالْمَغْرِبِ qibla. Whatever is between the east and the west, for the people of Medina, it is the qibla. So those who are in the north, and towards the direction of the Kaaba, for them is the direction of what's between the east and the west. Here in North America, what direction is the qibla? Northeast or southeast? Northeast. So we realize that for every place, there is a direction that you face to get to the exact direction of the qibla. And when we mean facing the direction, it means that a person, he cannot get it exactly, but he's getting it. Perhaps he's 10 degrees off, 20 degrees off, 5. That is okay. But some people nowadays, they establish a masjid, and if you were to calculate or to look at the compass, you find that the direction of the qibla is perhaps 100 degrees off. There then it's not facing the Kaaba whatsoever, it's another direction. You're not even facing the direction. So the matter with the brother, he read that the prayer is not valid except with it. This is the opinion of the majority of the scholars, that they see facing the Kaaba from the pillars or the conditions of the prayer. There's only one scholar who said that is considered to be something wajib, that it can be dropped at certain scenarios. And facing the Kaaba, the first thing that was abrogated in the Quran was facing the direction of the Qibla to Bayt al-Maqdis, then to the Kaaba. So they say the first thing that the Quran has an abrogation regarding is this matter. So it's important to pay attention. Then the brother, he read the matter relating to if a person is in a battle, a war, how does he face the Kaaba? How does he face the direction of the Qibla? Read that again, Sean.
Number 2, the obligation to face the direction of the Kaaba is removed from a warrior having to pray the fear prayer and during severe fighting.
طيب in the times of the past, when they were in war or battle with their opponents, they have different ways of praying. If the enemy is in front of them, they face towards the direction of the enemy, whether it's to the direction of the qiblah or not. So if the enemy is not in the direction of the qiblah, there's one group facing the direction of the enemy, protecting those who are facing the direction of the qiblah while praying. So for that reason they're exempted, because they are protecting and also in battle. For that reason it's dropped to face the qiblah. And also in severe war, Allah Tabaraka Ta'ala says, فَإِنْ خِفْتُمْ فَرِجَالًا أَوْ رُكْبَانًا, that if you fear, and you have severe fear during the battle, then you can fight while being at any states, whether praying standing or praying on a mount or a camel of that sort.
It is also removed from one who is rendered incapable of it, such as one who is very ill, or one who is upon a ship, car, or airplane, and who fears that the prayer time will reach its end. It is also removed from one who prays
also al-ajiz, the one who is not capable of facing the qibla, similar to who's sick, with the condition that he has no one to direct him to the qibla. If someone can move him, it's necessary that someone moves him to face the qibla. Some of us, we have family members, they're on the bed, they cannot move by themselves, but if they have someone that can move the bed for them to the direction of the qibla, then it's necessary upon them to do so, or else they're not obliged. Also in the state of a ship, it comes a hadith, Ibn Abbas, Prophet ﷺ, and he was asked about the prayer in the ship relating to standing. He said, pray standing, إِلَّا تَخَافَ غَرَقًا. Pray standing, even if you pray standing, except if you fear to drown. So meaning it has its rulings, that if a person is praying in a ship, and he cannot face the direction of the qibla due to it being a certain path going in a certain direction, then it's dropped for him to face any direction. Same thing with a car. If he fears the time coming out, they said you're not allowed to pray on a car or a ship. I mean, in these places that a person, he cannot pray unless he has fear of one of the two reasons: the time of the prayer coming out, and the second one is that it's difficult for him to come down. For example, he's on a ship, he can't come off the ship, or he's in a car, and the driver, some of us will be in a car with the driver, and the driver is perhaps non-Muslim, or a bus, and he's not willing to stop. And if you get off, you're going to miss your ride with him. So here, this scenario, the person is allowed to pray in any direction it's facing. Same thing with the plane. It's too tight and the scenario doesn't fit, you're praying. So he prays in any scenario, sitting, fearing Allah Ta'ala according to his capability.
It is also removed from one who prays optional prayer or the witr prayer upon a riding beast or vehicle. It is, however, preferable for him if he is able to return it toward the qibla for the initial takbir. After that, it does not matter in which direction it turns.
You can only pray on his mount or his vehicle, that which is voluntary. The voluntary prayers only, because it comes in a hadith, مَا كَانَ يُصَلِّي عَلَيْهَا الْفَرَائِض. He never used to pray the obligatory prayers on it. So if you're praying Dhuhr or Asr, you cannot pray in your vehicle or on an animal, except in those two conditions that we mentioned. What were those two conditions? Does anybody remember?
The time is about to go out.
The time's about to go out.
And the one that you're riding with is like a non-Muslim, or they're not able to It's difficult.
So it's difficult to come out, to come off the bus or whatever vehicle that you're on. There then it's permissible. So with those two conditions, but anything besides that is only allowed if it's voluntary prayer. But is it encouraged at the beginning, when you're praying voluntary prayer, to face the qiblah, and then wherever it faces, you let it go to face what direction? There's a narration that comes with this meaning, but Ibn al-Qayyim, he sees it to be weak. So even at the beginning of the prayer, it's not necessary to make it face the qiblah, or before you start your car, that you have to be in the direction of the qiblah. This is not necessary.
Number 3. It is obligatory upon everyone who can actually see the Kaaba to face it directly. As for those who cannot actually see it, then they should face the direction. The ruling concerning praying towards a direction other than that of the Kaaba by mistake. Number 4. If a person prays towards other than the Qibla due to the sky being cloudy, or for any reason other than that, after having tried to the best of his knowledge and ability to face the correct direction, then his prayer will be correct and he will not have to repeat it.
There comes two hadiths pertaining to this meaning. That comes the hadith of Jabir, the Prophet ﷺ, his companions, they prayed and they realized when the cloud went away that they faced the wrong direction, or the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ said, it is upon you not to make up for that prayer. That comes in a narration with that meaning, even though there's a dispute regarding its authenticity. Then there's another hadith relating to when they're in Medina, and then the Prophet, him and his companions already faced the change of the qibla to Kaaba, and some were still facing Bayt al-Maqdis. So when they were told afterwards, they didn't have to make up for the prayer. So it shows you that if you face a direction after striving to find out the correct direction and then you realize you are wrong, it is not upon you to make up your prayer. But when is it upon you to make up your prayer if you realize you aren't facing the correct direction? If you were, for example, what some people do, they come into a house, they're capable of asking the people in the house what direction is the qibla, or to use a compass, or any means of technology, and he chooses to guess, and he says Allahu Akbar, and he faces it. And then when he realizes that it wasn't, he says, it's not upon me to make it up. This is not correct. It's upon him to make up for his prayer, because he fell short. But the one who strives to find out, and tries his best, then realizes it wasn't the qibla, then for that person it's not necessary for him to make it up. Upon those two hadith that they mentioned.
Number 5. However, if a person whom he holds to be reliable comes to him whilst he is praying and informs him of the correct direction, then he must immediately turn to the correct direction and his prayer will be correct.
So there's things that have precedence. The first thing that you should do, if you cannot find out the direction of the Kaaba by yourself, is that you ask. If someone's there, you can ask, you have to ask. You cannot say, I'm going to strive on my own and guess. There's a chance me getting it right and a chance me if it's possible for you to know with certainty, it's necessary for you to ask. So, and the second one is striving on your own. Striving on your own. What about a person that's blind? Person is blind. Do we say he's exempted because he's blind? No, it's upon him to have someone that informs him. Where's the direction? He comes to the masjid. He says to people, where is the Kaaba? Can someone direct me? This is upon him to do. And also if he's praying and someone comes and moves him, it's upon him to be of those who turn to the direction where he's being faced to. Someone, if he's praying and they come to you and they tap you to a direction other than the direction you're facing, means that you're facing the wrong direction. So to take the direction is upon you, as come in the time of the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ.
Standing, qiyam. Number 6. It is obligatory that the person prays standing. This is a pillar, rukn, except for A. The one who is praying the fear prayer or during severe fighting. In these circumstances, it is permissible for him to pray whilst riding. B.
Before that, before we get into the next pillar, which is the pillar of standing, just want to wrap up some benefits that they mention about facing the qibla. Facing the qibla. From those benefits that they mention pertaining to facing the qibla is that the people of the past, they used to use certain means of finding out where is the qibla. From those means is even through the wind, certain sandstorm, the wind coming from what direction. On the way of the people of the past, they used to find out the direction of the qibla by that. The second way is by stars. The stars that are in its positions, they can realize by it where is the direction of the qibla. The third way is by the sun and the moon, the full moon at certain seasons, especially the spring and the fall. Person can know by the sun and also by the full moon the direction of the qibla. And to give an example, in midday at noon, if a person were to take a branch and put it in front of him and see the shade of the sun and then wait perhaps 20 minutes, then put his feet across from that direction, and just the opposite direction, then that will be the direction of the qibla if he is facing the south, or if he realizes if he's not on north, then he's facing the qibla. So there's different ways of a person would find out, even if he doesn't have means of technology. Also, is it necessary for you to face the qibla with your whole body? That you have to, even your toes, every little part of your body has to be facing the qibla? The majority of the scholars say that it's only recommended to face it with your face, meaning that if you were to turn your face to the side a bit, then it does not nullify your prayer. It's only recommended. And the second one is the chest. They differ regarding the chest. If a person, sometimes some of us, we're in a tight scenario, we're praying, and we may turn a bit like this. Are we referred to as not facing the qibla? They differ on that. The correct opinion is just recommended to face with chest. The main thing is that your standing position is facing the qibla. Your standing position is facing the qibla. What about his hands when it's on his thigh, or his toes, or his fingers when he's making takbir? Should he make it face the qibla, or should we do what certain people do? It's encouraged for that, to make it everything face the qibla, even your toes. Comes a narration of Sahabi Abi Hamid, بِأَطْرَافِ الْأَصَابِعِ, that even the the toes of a person, that he makes it face the qibla. That's encouraged. If he doesn't do so because of it's difficult for him, it's not compulsory. It's not compulsory. They're just encouraged. Even when you put your hands on your thigh, you try to put it facing the direction of the qibla. There are some scholars that even make it necessary a person's face and his whole body has to be facing the qibla. That if he were to look to his right or to his left, automatically his prayer is nullified by that. Some scholars, they hold that opinion. Another matter is the person who's praying on his mount or his camel or his vehicle. This is only when he is traveling. When he's traveling, it's allowed for him not to face the qibla. But what if he's in his car and he's in his residence? Does he have to face the qibla? No. Because the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ wasn't facing the qibla was confined and restricted to what time? When he was traveling. So we're going to summarize the scenarios that is not wajib to face the qibla. So number one, praying a voluntary prayer on a vehicle or an animal. That's number one. Person's praying a voluntary prayer, he's exempted to face the qibla. This is when we said when he's traveling. The second one, al-khawf al-shadid. Number two, the severe fear, he's frightened from something coming to harm him, and he has to stay in a scenario where he can't be facing the qibla, then it's allowed for him. The third one, which is similar to this one that we just mentioned, at-talab al-adu. When you're in the battlefield and the enemy is going to attack at any moment. The fourth one, من تبين له أنه صلى إلى غير القبلة بعد الاجتهاد. That if a person he prayed toward other than the qibla, after striving to find out what qibla, then he realized he was wrong. He doesn't have to make up his prayer. This is number four. After striving and trying his best to find out what direction the qibla, and then he prayed upon that, and then he realized after salat that he was wrong. Does he have to make it up? No, he doesn't have to make it up. Number five, عند الجهل بها. When he's ignorant about it. He's ignorant about it. For example, someone he doesn't know it's necessary, he just accepted Islam. He's ignorant that is upon him to face the qibla. So here he doesn't have to make it up. And number six, al-marid wal-maslub wal-ghariq. The one who's sick, so he cannot get up, or the one who is restrained to a certain place, he cannot move, and the one who is in water, where, for example, a person is in water. These are the scenarios where a person is exempted from facing the qibla. So those are six. I'm going to ask at the end of the class, inshallah. Just to. Does the vehicle has to be moving or can it be still? It has to be in motion. You cannot be on an animal or a vehicle, or something that you're riding, and while it's still, it has to be in motion, it has to be moving, because that's how the state of the Prophet ﷺ. So you say you can't find a person who's praying in his car, and the car is not moving, and he's saying, I'm praying my sunnah, and he's praying with facing other than the qibla. So the wisdom behind that, when a person is traveling, especially in the past, if every time he would have to stop to face the qibla, it would be difficult. So since the religion is easy, in that scenario it's dropped upon him to face the qibla. What about if a person is inside the Kaaba? Sometimes the Prophet ﷺ prayed in the Kaaba. What direction do you face when you're inside the Kaaba? Something a side benefit. What direction if you go inside the Kaaba? Any direction. MashaAllah. What if a person is underground, and he's on the basement level or underground level in Mecca, or he's in his house in the basement, he can't see the Kaaba? Does he have to come out of his house and face the Kaaba? He's still facing the direction of the Kaaba. It's not necessary for him to see it. So these are just side benefits that they mentioned. Inshallah, before we move on to the next pillar, I just want to mention that this matter of facing the qibla, a person should not go to a masjid that he knows that the qibla is far off. For example, it's not like a slight direction that's off, but it's totally off. It's not allowed for him to pray in it. He finds out that there's a masjid Or they say, for example, it's sufficient for the imam just to turn a bit, but everybody else is facing the wrong direction. So the imam turns a bit to the qiblah. Because the masjid is tight, they're all allowed to face the direction. That's not upon them, it's upon them to fix the scenario. This is from the conditions of the prayer. Again, on qiyam.
Standing, qiyam. Number 6. It is obligatory that the person prays standing. This is a pillar, or rukun, except for A. The one who is praying the fear prayer or during severe fighting. In these circumstances, it is permissible for him to pray whilst riding. B. Also the one who is ill and the one who is unable to stand, he should pray sitting if he is able, or if not, then whilst lying down. C. Also the person praying the nawafil salah, he may pray whilst riding or whilst sitting if he wishes. And in this case, he should perform ruku, bowing, and sujood, prostration, by lowering his head, and likewise the sick. He should lower his head further for the prostration than for the bowing.
This pillar, after speaking about the topic facing the qibla, the second pillar, which is standing. And Allah says in the Quran, وَقُومُوا لِلَّهِ قَانِتِينَ, and stand for the sake of Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala in a state of humility and also khushu'. So this is compulsory upon the person that he stands, if capable. And we're going to mention scenarios where it's allowed for him not to stand while he's praying. So the matter of standing, we mentioned that here, that is a pillar from the pillars of the prayer. As a side benefit, one of the scholars, by the name of Ibn Hazm, he sees that everything from the action of the prayer is a pillar. Because he says the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, "Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli," pray as you see me pray. He said this shows you that everything of the action of the prayer is a pillar. But the correct opinion that there's certain things that from the action of the prayer is just recommended, is not a pillar. We'll give examples. So now speaking back about the fear of standing, if he's praying in a state of Salat al-Khawf or a severe battle, it's allowed for him to pray in any scenario. For example, he's in a battlefield and he's scared of being seen, it's allowed for him to pray sitting. So in the past, this is how they were pray sitting. فَيَجُوزُ لَهُ أَنْ يُصَلِّيَ رَاكِبًا. It's permissible for him to pray while riding something. And also the person who's ill, he cannot get up. What's the dhabit? What defines that a person is allowed for him to pray sitting? They say الضابط أن يشق عليه مشقة شديدة, that it's severely harmful upon him to stand. Now for some people there's some harm, it's a little bit difficult, but it's not severe. It's still required for him to stand. For example, you have some pain with him that he can bear, then it's still required for him to stand. But a person that he cannot bear that pain while standing, or it may increase the sickness or the pain if he stands, or the hope of it being recovered, or something that recovers quick, it won't happen if he stands. For that reason, it's allowed for him to pray sitting. So those are the scenarios, that it's a severe pain that he cannot bear, or that if he stands, even though it's not severe, he fears that it may increase his pain, his illness, or reduce the chance of it being something that recovers soon. For any other reason than that, it's not allowed. He has to pray standing. But what about a person that he can pray standing for a short period of time, and then he gets dizzy? They say for that person, once he does takbir, he does it takbir standing. And then he stands for according to what he's capable, and then he sits down. And then when it's time for ruku', he gets up and does ruku' standing, and then he goes back to the prostration, sitting after that. So that's according to his capability. فَاتَّقُوا اللَّهَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُمْ, fear Allah according to your capability. It's going to come, how does he sit? We're going to speak about that. But if he can't pray sitting, what does he do? He prays lying down. How does he pray lying down? some of the scholars encourage that it be on his right side. And his right side is facing the qiblah. So when he's lying down, he's facing the direction with his face and his chest towards the qiblah on his right. And if he's not able to lie down, praying on, leaning on his right side, then he makes his feet face the qiblah. Whatever direction he's lying down, he just makes sure that his face is facing the qiblah. So he lies down on his back, and he has his feet towards the qiblah. This is the scenario of a person he's in a state where he cannot sit. But as for a person who's praying voluntary prayer, you can pray standing or sitting or even lying down. If you're praying a sunnah, it's allowed for you to pray sitting, and it's allowed for you to pray while lying down. It comes in some narrations, al-mutatawwi' amir nafsi, the one who's doing a voluntary act, he has a choice. He can pray standing, he can pray sitting, he can pray lying down, or he can pray some this in the prayer, and then when he gets close to him about to finish his recitation, he can go down sitting. He can mix it in one act, in one prayer. And if he prays sitting, how should his ruku' and his sujood be? He makes his with his head, moving with his head along with the neck. He makes his head that which determines what is ruku' and what determines that which is sujood. But what if he's in severe pain, he cannot move his head? He's lying down, can't move his head, can't move any part of his body. What should he do?
House.
Huh?
House. You pray in the house.
Pray in the house, huh? There's some who say that he prays even with the wink of his eye. SubhanAllah. Prays with the wink of his eye. For example, when he's going to ruku', he closes his eye. And then when he's moving again, he opens his eye. And then when he's going to sujood, he closes his eye even longer. Huh? This is what some say. But this is not authentic. Or some say that you pray with your finger. Shaykh al-Albani, he criticized this. He said this is something that has become widespread between the awam, the general folks, that he prays with his finger. For example, he says, I'm doing ruku' now. That's not allowed. That's not from the prayer. If a person, he's not able to pray moving his head and his body, then it's dropped upon him the movements. All he has to do is utter the words. He says the Fatiha, he says Sami Allah. He just intends with his heart and he utters the words. So that's what's related to if he's ill or he has pain, he cannot pray standing. What about praying on the chair? Praying on the chair. A person doesn't resort to praying on a chair except if he can't sit on the floor. If it's difficult for him to pray sitting on the floor, then he goes and he prays on a chair. But as to make the chair your first option, that's incorrect. To make the chair your first option, then that is incorrect. Since it comes to some narration, the Prophet ﷺ command to pray on the ard, the floor. And also there's a certain way that a person sits. So he misses out when he is on a chair. And also the chair at times it cuts the rows, affects the person behind them. A person wouldn't go to that unless he cannot pray sitting on. Another thing we notice, a person will be standing for a long time, having a long conversation with someone. Perhaps walking this place, that place, and have a long conversation. Then when it comes to salat time, he's fine and praying on the chair. This is not correct. The salat has more importance. Now, if a person he can't do ruku' or something, then he should stand what he could, and then when it comes to ruku', he sits. It's upon you to do what you can. You don't leave off some things which you could do for things that you can't. It's important. You find that perhaps he's standing for 20 minutes. Then when salat comes, he's sitting on a chair. That's not correct. unless it's difficult for him. So inshallah, we'll read the last part, inshallah.
Number 7. It is not permissible for the one praying sitting to place something raised upon the ground to prostrate upon. Rather, he should only make the movement for his prostration lower than that for his bowing. As we have already mentioned, this is what he does if he is unable to directly place his head upon the ground.
MashaAllah, it comes in a hadith that the Prophet ﷺ prohibited a man to pray on a pillow, to do sujood on a pillow. So you should not do sujood on something. You should do sujood directly to the floor if possible. Meaning if he cannot do sujood, then he just merely moves his head. He moves his head, makes the indication for ruku' and makes the indication for sujood. And he doesn't do what some people do, bring a rock and prostrate on it, or a pillow, or pick up some sand and say this is sufficient for me. This is a newly invented matter. Either he does prostration to the floor, or else it's upon him to just merely make an indication with his body, and he does not prostrate on a pillow.
Prayer on a ship or airplane. Number 8. It is permissible for the obligatory prayer upon a ship and likewise in an airplane. Number 9. A person may pray sitting in either of them if he fears that he will fall over. Number 10. In the case of old age or bodily weakness, it is allowed for him during the standing to support himself against a pillar or with a stick.
The plane is known that a person, he prays sitting. But what about in a state, if he's on a ship, if it's capable for him to pray and he's standing on the ship, some ships is suitable, but if he fears that he may fall over, or it's not safe, or water may come on him, then he prays sitting, due to the ship being more wider than a plane. What about a train? You're in a train. Shaykh Salih Fawzan, he was asked about this. He said that first thing about if you're facing the qiblah and in the train, since the train you can just face any direction you want, even though the train is going to other than the direction of the qiblah, it's still necessary upon you to face the qiblah. If you know the qiblah, then you face it in the train. But due to it may not be suitable to pray sitting or pray standing in the train, then you're allowed to pray sitting. The next issue about a person that's old, he can use a stick or cane to pull himself up with for when standing. Just for when he's standing, but not to lean on it throughout the prayer. You should not use a cane throughout the prayer leaning on it. Because if he cannot stand in the prayer, then it's upon him to sit. Allah does not burden a soul over its capacity. So if he cannot stand, and he needs a cane to stand throughout the prayer, then it's upon him to sit down. Yes, the reward of the one who prays sitting is half of the reward of the one who prays standing. And the one who prays lying down, his reward is half of the reward of the one who's praying sitting. This is the case if you do not have an excuse. But a person who has an excuse, then he has the same reward as the one who's praying standing. Person is ill, he has the same reward of the one who's praying standing.
Number 11. It is permissible for the voluntary prayer during the night, standing, or even sitting without an excuse. And he can combine both of these. So, he may pray and recite while sitting, and then shortly before the ruku', he may stand and recite the few ayahs that remain for him while standing. Then, he bows and prostrates. And then, he does the same in the second rak'ah. Number 12. If he prays sitting, he sits with his legs crossed, or in any manner of sitting that is comfortable for him.
the part about yani, if he's praying sitting, he can recite until he has a few ayats left and then get up to perform ruku'. This is allowed. This is what the Prophet ﷺ done. He recited about 30 to 40 ayats while sitting. Recited 30 to 40 ayats while sitting. So then when he had few ayats left, he got up and he done ruku'. So this is even what people do in Taraweeh. If the Imam, and it's difficult for you to stand, you'll pray behind him, sitting, though he's standing. Then when it's close for him to finish the surah, you will get up with him to catch the ruku'. While standing. That is a combination of the two, standing and sitting. This is what the Prophet ﷺ used to do. At times he'll pray standing throughout the night, and at other times he'll pray sitting throughout the night, and the third scenario he'll make a combination of the two. So those are three scenarios, huh? What are those three scenarios, Mahir? The Prophet ﷺ when he's praying the night prayer. Standing up. Sitting down.
Or a combination.
Combination of the two. So what's the combination of the two? Standing and sitting. Tayyib, when he sits down, how should he sit? Here it mentions he sits with his legs crossed. There comes a narration reported by Imam Nasai and Aisha. That if you're sitting in the prayer, you should sit with your legs crossed. Though this narration has been criticized by Imam Nasai himself, the one who reported the hadith. Also Shaykh Muqbil declared it to be a weak hadith. And there's a consensus of the scholars in agreement that you can pray while sitting in any way. So you can have your legs as you sit in the last tashahhud or the first tashahhud. You can sit in any way while praying sitting. So you can have your legs crossed, whatever is easier for you. But can he stretch out his legs? While he's sitting down? He stretch out his legs. Imam al-Nawawi rahimahullah, he says it's disliked to do so. Stretch out your legs, but it's not haram. The person can't bear, then it's allowed for him to even stretch his legs out while sitting in the prayer. So we know that if a person is praying sitting, that he can sit in any way, cross, legs crossed, whatever is suitable. Tayyib, alhamdulillah, we'll stop with this today, and we'll just recap some of the benefits to make sure it's memorized. We'll start asking. Tayyib, the first question: if a person he's in Mecca and he sees the Kaaba, is it sufficient for him to face the direction of the Kaaba, or does he have to face the Kaaba itself? He has to face the Kaaba itself. But what if a person is in a building, he can't see the Kaaba, and he's in Mecca? He has to face the direction. The one who's even in Mecca, but there's something, a barrier between him and seeing the Kaaba, he doesn't have to face the Kaaba itself. All he has to do is face the direction. So us here, we're facing that direction. We're not facing the actual, exact Kaaba, but we're facing the direction where the Kaaba is in. So if we're off a bit, it's okay, but to be totally off then is not acceptable. And also there's a doubt that some people come with, saying that the Kaaba is, that they say the Google map and all these stuff is wrong, that it's not northeast, it's southeast. They bring these doubts, and they say the reason why, because the earth is flat. So when you look at it from a different angle, it shows that what was mentioned that is northeast is wrong, and it's supposed to be south. So they face a different direction. It's not allowed to pray in the masajid of such people. It's not allowed to pray in the masajid of such people who do that state. Tayyib, when it's facing the qiblah, is it a pillar or a condition of the prayer? That's a tough question. Hold on.
It's both.
It's both, mashallah. How is it both?
And before the salah, it's a condition.
Before the salat, it's a condition.
And then during the salat, it's a rukn.
And during the salat, it's a rukn. MashaAllah. Beautiful answer. Ajab fa asab. He answered and got it right. Correct. طيب, next question. What are some of the scenarios, the 6 scenarios that we mentioned, that a person is allowed to face other than the direction of the qibla? He's exempted. Huh? Some of the scenarios, not all. Have safe, huh?
When he's praying the voluntary prayer on a vehicle or when he's traveling.
No, mashallah.
When he's in great fear.
No.
When he's in the battlefield and enemy is about to attack.
No.
He prays in other direction. He prays in a different direction after striving, and then he finds out later he got it wrong, so he doesn't have to pick it up.
No, mashallah.
When he's ignorant about it, for example, when a person just accepted Islam.
So.
And when he's sick or he's restrained to a certain place, and the one who's in water.
MashaAllah. طيب, what has precedence? You striving to find out where the qibla is, or asking someone who knows? Huh? What has precedence? Asking. Verily, asking is the cure for ignorance. Asking, it comes in narration, is the cure for ignorance. So it has precedence. If you're able to achieve certainty, it's upon you to do so, not to assume and to come to your own estimation, and perhaps it's right or wrong. Is it necessary for the car to be in motion or be moving while praying on it? Huh?
Yes, it's necessary.
Necessary. طيب. MashaAllah. طيب, what are the 2 scenarios? It's a person is exempted to pray on a vehicle or mount. We've mentioned 2 conditions. One of the 2 scenarios. First one, if the time is about to run out, and the second one, it's not possible to come out. MashaAllah. This happened even to me one time when I was in Somalia. The driver, he didn't want to stop the vehicle, and the prayer is about to come off, and in a scenario where you have to pray wherever direction is facing. So that's the scenario where it's allowed. طيب, is it encouraged at the beginning of the prayer that you make the vehicle face the qibla or the animal, then let it go wherever direction is going to go? Or could it just be at any direction at the beginning of the prayer?
I believe it's considered weak, but it's not encouraged.
No, it's not authentic. Ibn Qayyim sees that. A majority of the scholars see that it's not upon you to make the vehicle face the qibla, then pray. طيب, praying while standing, or praying standing, a person is exempted to pray standing when he's ill, he has severe pain. He has severe pain. But can he pray on a chair? Can he pray on a chair? Huh? Can he pray on a chair? No, I'm sure your first option should be not be. Should be pray sitting on the floor if possible. If it's difficult, then he prays on the chair. And some of the masajid in Yemen, they have the chairs in the back. They don't even have the chairs in the rows. The chairs in the back, they just pray. They don't even join that row. So their first option is the chairs. If it's difficult and due to him being an old age he cannot, then it's allowed. So I believe the time is coming close. Inshallah, we end with this amount. Alhamdulillah, today we have completed 2 pillars, facing the qibla and also standing. 2 important factors of the prayer. We ask Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala to make this beneficial. And this book, it continues. There's a lot of topics of the prayer that is left, little by little. We ask Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala to make it beneficial. Wa akhiru da'wana anil hamdulillahi rabbil alameen.